Right, so thank you for coming today. The session I'm going to be talking about is called Share Page Creation Live. And what I'm going to do in this session, as the name suggests, is I'm going to actually do some page creation. But this isn't going to be the old way in which we've done page creation up until now. It's going to be showcasing a lot of the infrastructure that's already in place in Share 4.2, but I'm going to be using a few tools that are sort of not in the product, but more as a showcase for what we're able to start doing with Share going forwards. So very quickly, a little bit about me. My name is Dave Draper. I've been working for Alfresco now for just over 3 years. I work in the UI team. My primary role is working with the Surf framework and sort of making sure that we have a good extensible framework, and also obviously the day-to-day line items to do with Share and also the cloud offering we now have. So previously at DevCon, myself and my good colleague Eric Wineleaf, who can't be here this year because he's on extended paternity leave, we ran a session called Share Customization Live. Just out of interest, anyone? Was anyone at that session last year? A few, yeah, excellent, right. So it's still up on YouTube if you're having trouble sleeping at night. But it's actually got some good stuff in, and I didn't want to reiterate those sort of concepts. All that stuff is still in 4.2, but what we did was, in the space of a 50-minute session, we actually took a vanilla installation of Alfresco 4.2C community, and we built a new application effectively via customization, and it was kind of live, but what was happening was Eric was explaining a lot of the concepts and I was sort of doing the code in the background. This year I'm flying solo, and I wanted to raise the bar a little bit. So I actually wanted to go and create these pages, and I want to do it by myself. And I'm trying to showcase, as I said, the new direction in which we're taking Share development. Okay, so I was a little bit of background for those of you who aren't familiar. So in Share, which is an application built on the Surf framework, which is an extension to Spring MVC, up until now it's been quite complicated for us to build pages. I say complicated, there's a lot of power behind it, which is a good thing, but there's also a lot of complexity. It's not an intuitive process for building pages, and it's not a particularly quick process. So if you wanted to have a page, you'd need a page XML file to define a page object, and this would be where you define your user authentication rights. And that would then, sort of amongst other things, that's the primary purpose, it would map to a template instance XML file. That would have a one-to-one mapping with a FreeMarker template, which would define the sort of structure of your DOM model. And within that, you could define regions. And a region would be wrapped by Chrome, which would be, if you imagine, I guess conceptually the idea was if you were sort of having a portlet or dashlet style layer, you could define your sort of your Chrome in this file, and you wouldn't have to define it for each component you were building. Each region would have a one-to-one mapping with a component. A component would have its own Chrome, and a component would would have a binding to a web script. And a web script would contain a minimum of 2 files, at least a web script descriptor and a FreeMarker template, and optionally a JavaScript controller, and potentially localization files, a config file, and possibly a Java, could have a Java back controller as well. So as you can kind of imagine, there's quite a lot of files going on there. It offers you a lot of power and a lot of flexibility, but it is complex. And so the standard dashboard is made up of approximately 30 files. Now, clearly, that's too much. So we wanted to look at ways of making the process much simpler. And that's what I'm going to try and demonstrate today. So let me give you the full picture of what I'm going to do today. I am genuinely going to be creating stuff live. I have nothing up my sleeve, effectively. Although I'm working on a branch of Share or of Alfresco, so it's very close to what's in 4.2e on the current SVN trunk. But there's a few little bits that I added on, and there's some tooling that isn't available for Share. But as I said, the tooling that I'm going to be demonstrating is to showcase the infrastructure, if you like, rather than it being what the session is about. I will be heavily using a new widget library, and that's what this session I have after lunch is going to be focused on. And the idea of this session is you don't really need to understand any of the technical details. The purpose is just to show you what we've got And if you're interested in how it all works, then come to the session, which is immediately after lunch in this room, and we'll dive into a bit more of the technical details around it. So that's effectively what I'm going to try and do. And as I said, I will be creating stuff live, but there are going to be a few videos, first of all, showing how to create stuff. So, and I have got a backup if it all goes horribly wrong as well. So we're going to start with a really, really simple example. Now the idea, what we want to try and do, is we want to define a page as a model, and we're going to define it as a JSON model. And in this example, I'm going to show you a JSON editor. This is something, again, it's one of the tools that aren't available in Share 4.2, but it's working on infrastructure that is in the product. So what we're going to do is we're going to find some JSON. And that JSON is basically going to say, I want to have an array of widgets on my page, and this array is going to contain a single element, and that element will be an Alfresco logo. And if you look here, I click on this preview button, and as if by magic, that definition is turned into content. And so that's the most sort of simple thing I can define. If I wanted to provide some configuration for that widget, I can set a config attribute, and I can pump in a CSS class, and then when I hit the preview button again, then it turns into a surf logo. So like I said, this isn't particularly exciting, but this is the most sort of simple thing I can demonstrate. So this JSON is a new page structure. Not a very exciting page, but it's a page structure nonetheless. So let's make it a little bit more interesting. So if we want to build a menu bar, for example, we're going to do exactly the same thing again, but this time I'm going to show you how you can nest widgets in together. So we start building our JSON structure as before. And this time we're going to use a menu bar widget, and then we're going to nest items within that. And by the way, this page editor tool is actually built using the framework, which it's demonstrating at the same time. And the other key thing to know about this is that none of the resources for building this page are actually on the page editor. So when you hit the preview button, it's dynamically requesting all of the resources and working out what it needs to build the page. And at the moment, although it is a page definition, it is just being loaded into a preview section. So here you go. So I've defined my menu bar, and the config attribute has another attribute of its own widgets array. And that widgets array has a menu bar pop-up, which is like a drop-down menu, effectively. And in that drop-down menu, we're going to place a single menu item. And here you can see within the config, you can pump in any attributes that your widget uses. In this case, we're specifying a label. You could put in here localization keys, but here we're just hard coding a value for the purposes of the demonstration. And so I apologize, this takes a little bit of time. This will get a bit more interesting when I move off the JSON editing, but so we put in a menu item here, give it a label, and finally when I hit the preview button, you'll see at the top of the screen a drop-down menu appears, and there we have a menu. So that is effectively the kind of really simple structure that we want to start building pages using. Now, me showing you endless videos of typing it into an editor isn't particularly exciting. But the nice thing about having this model for defining pages, it lends itself very well to a graphical user interface. So here I'm going to show you another tool we have, which is what I'm going to be using for the live part of the demonstration, to actually build exactly the same things using a drag and drop style interface. Again, as I said, this tool isn't available in 4.2, but it is using the infrastructure that 4.2 supports. So here we go. So this is our page creator, and we're going to build exactly the same two examples. So we've got a palette of items on the right, grab the logo widget from it, leave it as the standard logo, hit preview, there's the Alfresco logo, go back into it, this time grab the surf configuration, save it, hit the preview, there's the surf logo, and we can then delete that from the page, go and grab ourselves our menu bar, our drop-down list, and our menu item, and then we preview that. We're going to see exactly the same thing. So the key point to know about here is that what's actually happening under the covers is exactly the same thing that was happening when we were writing it out as JSON. It's just much more convenient and less error-prone to be using a drag-and-drop style interface. And as you can see, exactly the same result has occurred. We've got our menu item. So what is actually going on here? So I've not really shown you anything that could be all smoke and mirrors for you now. So what's actually going on? Let's imagine we've got our web client and we've got Surf running an application in the background. What's actually happening is when we define this JSON model, either through the drag and drop interface or via our JSON editor, we actually send this JSON model to Surf. And Surf then works out what's required for that page model, and it sends a list of resources back to the web client. The web client will then go and request all of those resources, which will be in the form of JavaScript and CSS. Surf will then return those, and then the page model that was originally supplied is processed, and it builds the page on the fly for you. So as I was saying earlier, there's nothing, it's not like you have a full list of resources on the page. You're only ever going to require the minimum amount of resources you need to build the page you want to. That's all very well. I've just basically shown you a completely non-functional UI. So what if you actually want to go and do something? What if you actually want to go and create some data, or get some data, or perform an action? So here we have another example. And this time, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on. So we're actually using publications. So we're going to go and publish a request for getting data. In this case, we're going to get it from company home. And we're going to place something called a service on the page. Again, you don't need to worry about these too much. I'm going to sort of go over these quite quickly, and then I'll be explaining them in more detail. And then we're also going to put some widgets on the page. And in this case, we're going to use a simple document list view. And when I hit the preview button, you'll see that, as you might expect, the company home data arrives in the form of a simple document list view. So what's actually going on is that the way this works, one of the key objectives is for us to decouple the communication layer between widgets. So we're trying to avoid having any hard-coded dependencies between one widget and another. So all the communication is done over a pub sub or publication subscription layer, which is how I'm able to just drop things onto the page and have them just work together. So everything is publishing on particular topics. Some widgets will be publishing, some widgets will be subscribing, and but when I'm doing this, I obviously have some inside knowledge about what publishes to what and what's going to react. But it is decoupled. I don't have to define any specific relationships between the widgets. So here we have our web client. This is basically describing what you just saw. We've got our publication, our service, and our document list all living within the web client. We've got our web tier, which is Surf or Share, and we've got our Alfresco repository on the back end. Now, presumably, and many of you are familiar with the concept of a sort of DOM ready or a page load event. So the browser will be saying, hey, I've got all my HTML in place. You can now typically you start listening for this when you want to start running JavaScript. So that will occur. The JavaScript will be processed. We'll build all of our widgets. And the framework we then have, when all the widgets are built, will say, okay, I'm good to publish any page load publications that are requested. And in this case, there's a publication which says, it just fires off a publication saying, go and get me these documents. Now, although I've drawn an arrow between the publication and the service, it's not quite, it's just firing off, but this is where the communication happens to go. The document service is listening on this particular topic, and therefore it reacts to it, and it sees a request for getting documents, and it then fires an XHR request or an asynchronous request to Surf or to Share to say, go and get me the documents with the payload that's been requested. That goes through the Share proxy to the repository. The repository then serves up the data back to the web tier. The web tier sends the data back to the document service, and the document service now has a nice payload or a nice list of a response with a whole load of the documents that have been requested. The document service isn't going to respond to the publication because effectively that's done its job. What it's then going to do is it's going to say, hey, I've got some documents. And it just so happens the simple document list is subscribing on the topic, waiting for information about for document notification information. So it then responds to a new set of documents being provided and renders a document list. And that's effectively what you saw on the screen. So hopefully you can see that everything is decoupled. It's working over this pub sub layer. So it's all very well to be going and creating previews on the fly, but what if we actually want to go and save this model, or we want to run this model from something we've previously created? Well, there's two ways in which we can do this. We can define our model in a web script controller. So we can have a single web script which defines a page we want to load, and we can work from that. Or, quite interestingly, we can dynamically save that page into the repository because it's nothing but XML, not XML, sorry, JSON. There's nothing that's executed. We won't eval it because that would be dangerous, but we can parse the JSON and then turn it into a page on the fly. So if you were to create a location in Share under the data dictionary, if you went to go and create a location called Share Resources, and within that folder put pages, you could then, this is a location where new page definitions are going to be written. This isn't available by default because, so the web script for doing this does actually exist. This is going to show basically it working in flight, so I'm just going to create the logo example, this time with a slightly different Alfresco logo. So the web script for doing this exists, but it's user protected, so anyone could in theory run the web script now, but the admin would have had to set up the location and they'd have had to have granted permissions for a user to go and create that content. So the bits are in place if you wanted to start using this now, but it's sort of not really available out of the box. The admin would have to do quite a bit of work to make it occur. So hopefully you can see there that, I know I was talking while I was going over, but you can then go and view you can save the page to the repository, and then you can just go and load it dynamically. So then you've got this idea of page persistence. It's quite cool. I've not had to do any server restarts. It just works. And you can see there that the page that I've defined is actually injected between the standard header and footer, because one of the, again, I was talking about the fact that the surf page model gives us lots of power. This is an example. We can actually define lots of different page templates, and we can use the page model in lots of different ways. And in this case, I'm just injecting it into a specific structure, in this case, between a standard menu and footer, header and footer. Okay. Everyone with me so far? I know I'm going quite quick, but as I said, the main thing about this is for me to sort of show you this stuff exists and kind of what you can do, and then in the session after lunch I'm going to be explaining how it works and how you can, and what you can do with it. So here we go. So I apologise, I've got to switch over to out of. Right, so let's. So if I show you here, this is my repository browser. If I go into the data dictionary and I go to Share Resources, this is just to show you there's nothing up my sleeve. There's nothing in the Pages file yet. And here's the page creator tool that I was demonstrating on the videos. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new details page. I'm going to create a new custom, create a new collection page. I'm going to create a link between that collection page and that details page so that I can see the content and I can click on an item and go to that new details page. And I'm also going to create a menu so that I can create content in line within this new, these new pages. And I'm going to do it all on the fly without any server restarts, and hopefully it's all going to work seamlessly. But you know what it's like when you're doing a demo in front of a room full of people. So first of all, let's actually show a few things at work here. So I'm actually going to, blown it there by showing you what I was, something I was working on previously. So I'm going to go to shared files. So in here, I'm actually going to go and look at a particular document. So this is a PDF by our very own Jeff Potts. And what I want to grab here is I just want to grab the node reference from the URL. And then I'm going to start with the details page first of all. So I'm going to show some of these things at work. So here's my list of publications. I've got the option of retrieving a single document or retrieving a whole load of documents. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually try and retrieve a single document. And I've got the option of using URL tokens. Again, if you're not familiar with all these things, I'm going to explain that in more detail in the following session. Or I can actually specify a custom node ref. So that's the node ref that I used previously. He says, what's that? Not okay. Needed to press a key for it to be happy. That was doing some validation, so I can now save that as the particular node ref that I want to go and grab. And then because I know that I'm doing some document work, I want to actually grab one of these services. In this case, I want to grab the document service. I'm going to drop that onto the page as well. And then I actually want to go and do the preview. So I need this document object, which is basically something that's going to listen for requests. Basically, anytime the document service comes back and says, hey, I've got a document, this document widget is something that's listening, and it will pass that information on to any of its child widgets. So I'm just going to, I could grab, there's a whole bunch of stuff here, and by the way, this isn't the full list of the widgets that are available. This is just a subset that I happen to have plugged in. And the whole page it's very much a sort of prototype style thing. I really don't want to connect, thanks. I've lost my train of thought now. Yeah, it's just a prototype, but it's built using this structure which I'm demonstrating. It's built off a web script that's actually, which I'm preloading. So I'm now going to grab a, really? Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to, apologies for this, I'm just going to turn this off so it stops bothering me. Yeah, so I've dropped the preview. There's no config for any of these widgets, but hopefully now when I hit the preview button, you'll see that I've got a brand new preview. This is a beta widget that we're working on at the moment, but it's just an example of the sort of thing you can do. You can get straight to an individual widget. In this case, it's an HTML5 previewer, so there's no flash. It's a little bit hokey. You get the first page twice for some reasons, but effectively every page is an image, so it'll work on things like iPads, etc. And if you're on an iPad, you can actually swipe across, but you know that's just an example of being able to build something quite quickly. So let me just do that again, and this time I'll save it. So here we go. So I want to retrieve a single document. This time I'm going to leave it as the Node-ref URL tokens. I'm going to say I want my document service so that I can grab the content, and I'm going to have my document, and I'm going to have my document preview. And also the other thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to set a page title here. So if I drop this in anywhere, I can now go in and say custom details view. Hit the save button there, and now I can go in and say, got to make sure I don't get any typos here, custom details, and I can save that. So if I now go back to my repository view, click on the Pages folder, you'll see that that's in the page that I've just created, and it's now persisted into the repository. So I can go back, and now I want to create my, my collection view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do things a little bit in reverse order so it makes a bit more sense on the page. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a page title. I'm going to call this one Custom Collection. I'm going to create myself a menu bar. I'm going to put myself a drop-down menu in there. This is going to be for my content creation. So in here, let's say I want to call, and I've got a few more options than you saw before. So if I said I want to call this create content, I can give it an icon. I can give it alt text as well. I can do all sorts of things. I could basically drop in whatever sort of config I need for that particular widget. And then for my menu item, I'm going to say create document. Let's pick a nice pencil type icon. And I'm going to leave that. So you can see that I had some options for my publication there, but I'm not actually going to use those. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use a pre-built publication. So what I want to do is when I click on the button, I want to see a dialog pop up. So I want a new dialog request publication. So I just drop this right in to the menu item that's going to appear on the screen. And what I want to do is I want to say, okay, so my dialog title is going to be create content. Let's maybe, instead of having it as OK, I want to change the button, the sort of confirmation button, to be save. I've got a couple of predefined topics. One is create, one is update. Hit the save on that. And then this is a sort of bit of inside knowledge of how things are going to work. But when I do this publication, I actually want to be publishing to the forms processor. So if you're familiar with that, you'll know that I need to post a couple of key parameters. So one of them is I actually need to set prop CM name. That's going to be the, let's do this. So if I say document name, and I can put a description in. Units would be things like miles, milliseconds, something like that. I don't need any of that. I want it to be initially visible and initially required. Hit the save button on that, and then I actually want to have something for my my content. So I'm going to create a text area, and this time I'm going to post to prop CM content, content, into some content. I don't know why it is, but whenever you're typing in a presentation, you want there to be no typos, not that it makes any difference at all. So save that. And so now that's going to build me the menu to create a dialog, and the dialog will pop up a form I want. And now I actually need to have build my document list. So instead of using the service, what I'm actually going to use here is I'm going to use an entire document list widget. So I'm going to drop this in, a bit hard to see, in here. And what you should see is that it's kind of exactly the same kind of data as options that were in before. I can choose if I want documents or everything, including folders, but I'm going to pick again from a well-known node. In this case, I'm going to go from shared files this time. I'm going to save that. And then within this document list, I actually want to define myself a brand new abstract document list view. So whereas before when I picked the simple document list, that was actually just an abstract view which had some JSON, a JSON structure already defined in it. This time I'm just picking an abstract one, and I can define how I want my collection data to be built. So the widgets that you drop in here or define actually specify how you want each item to be defined. So I'm going to say for each document, I want it to be a row. The other options obviously would be a cell within a grid, something like that, like the gallery view which we have. And within my row, I'm going to put drop in a few cells. So let me just do this. It's a bit harder on this screen res. So the row is very much like a table. It is a table, in fact. So I set like a width for the first cell, and if I set a width for the last cell to just 100 pixels, then the middle cell is just going to fill up the remaining space. I've got a whole bunch of things I can choose from, but I'm going to stick in a thumbnail as the first cell. Let's put the size in maybe for the last one, and let's put a property in for the central one. And in the property, I can choose which property I want to render. I've only actually defined a few, so I'm going to leave it as name because I know it's going to be there. I can make it large, small, medium. And I want this to be rendered as a link. If I left this as being the default, then it would go to the standard details page, but I actually want this to go to a custom URL. And in this case, I know it's going to be going to a remote page that I've created, and it's going to be custom details. Okay, so save that. Now, so that's my widget structure, but by itself, this won't do anything. It'll appear on the page, but if I start clicking any buttons, it's not going to have any action. So I know, for example, we've already seen that when I want to get documents, I need to have the document service on the page. If I'm going to be requesting to build dialogues, I need the dialogue service on the page. And if I'm going to be creating content, I need to have the content service on the page. So now it's there. Let's chance my arm and see if it actually builds. Let's hit the preview button. So there we can see, previewed in line, I've got my, that's the same content hopefully you can recognize from the shared folder you saw earlier. And if I go to create document, you'll see my menu appears. You can see these are the labels I gave it, and when I hover over, I see the description I gave. So I think I previously created one called test2, so let's call this test. And then I can say some new content. Hit save, hopefully, fingers crossed. There you go, it's gone and done the request, and it's got the new document. So I'm quite happy with my page now. So I can say custom collection. So I'm going to go and save this. If I go back to my repository view, I don't want to click there, refresh the page, and you see there's my custom collection, there's my custom details. So now what I can do is I can go to my page and I put in the URL. Again, like I said, I know I'm going over this quite quickly, but the point is to just sort of show the capabilities. And if you're interested in the technical details, we'll dive into that in the next session. But I just wanted to give a flavour of this in action. So I'm going to go, so obviously I've been testing this stuff works, so that's the URL that I built. If I hit go to the custom collection, it will actually load, please. There we go. So it's actually loaded. It's my predefined or my custom view that I've got. So if I actually go and should be able to click on this, and there we are. That's my preview of the document I built. And again, so you can see I can flip through the pages as I did before. I can go back and I can sort of navigate into the folders. So it's all working as you might expect. So you can see the back buttons working, all that kind of stuff. So it's all just built in there and working. And I can still do the same thing again. I can go and create, let's call this one test 3. And you should notice as well that this is a required field. This is just examples of all these things that I've not really had to think about. Because I said it was a required field, you'll notice that the save button is initially disabled. As soon as I start typing some text, what's happening is, again, it's all using this pub sub layer. The dialog service is creating a form for me, and every time you change content within any of the form fields, they're publishing, saying, hey, I've got some new information. And the form field is listening to all of so if the form is listening to all the fields that's in it, and when it detects that there's some change, it evaluates the rules on the fields. In this case, that the document name is required, and it will then determine whether or not that you can actually save, because obviously if a field is required and there's no data, you don't want the user to be able to do anything with it. So some more content. So hopefully if I do that, that's going to work again. So test 3 should show up, and if I click on this, hopefully the render in the background will work. Sometimes I have to go over to the, come on, oh, there it is. So I don't know if you can just about see that, yeah. So there you go. So that's the example of building this stuff on the fly. So as I said, the important thing to take away from this is not that we want people to start going away and dynamically creating pages. The idea is that we're demonstrating a way in which we can make it simpler for page creation. We're making it so simple that you could actually define this on the fly in a running environment. In terms of actual day-to-day applicability or things you want to do with your with Share, you'll probably be wanting to define these models within web scripts and actually serve those up to build pages. And it's all going to be using these widgets that we're defining. So when I was practicing this, it was never quite as quick as this, but I think I've sped through. So I'll show a couple more sort of things that you might be interested in that you can do the kind of widgets that we've got available. I think the form stuff is particularly useful, a good example of this pub sub stuff. So if I go and create myself a form, and then I were to put a text box in it, and say I just give it a value, email, and say it's going to be an email address. Let's leave that, leave the units out. I could do validation. So this is another thing. So all of the widgets are inheriting from all the form widgets are inheriting from a common base. So all of these things you'll see when I go to any of them, you see the same kind of structure. So there's no duplication of code. It's very easy to build your own new form widget. So I've only got a few here, but it's just a case of extending the base and then creating the actual control you want. So in this case, I'm using one of the built-in validation rules, which is just using regex to set an email pattern. And then say I want to actually dynamically control whether or not that text box is displayed. Say I want to have a field on the post where it's hide email. Because this is a sort of common pattern that that you typically get into, particularly with forms where you want to have progressive disclosure, or you want to be able to guide the user into making sure they don't enter the wrong data. So I'm going to create this new field, and when I go back to the text box, I've got a whole bunch of rules which I can actually configure how I want the widget to behave. So in this case, we're going to say I want to listen out for the value of hide email, and I want to say if it's true, then actually I don't want it to be true, I want it to be false. Because if it's false, I want it to be, it'll make more sense that way. And also, let's go back to the checkbox and let's give it a default value of false as well. So hopefully this should work. So here you can see, there's my email address. You can see that it's invalid. If I start typing my email address in, as soon as I've got some valid data, you can see that the OK button was disabling. The OK button was being enabled, and the warning indicator was going away. And if I click on the hide email address, you can see that I'm toggling the display of the email. So again, the key thing is I've not had to write any JavaScript here. The widgets have been written in such a way that we can define behavior in this JSON model. And again, what we need to take from this is all of this that you're seeing, the page creator, all the examples I've shown you. It's basically defining a page as a simple JSON structure. And that JSON structure is safe to store on the repository, and it can be processed on the fly to build pages. And all of this work is being done by Share and Surf, and I'm going to explain how all of this works in the session I'm doing after lunch. So I think I'm a little bit ahead of schedule. Ian, where is Ian? And we're doing. So if we want to go to questions, it's possibly a little bit early, but I would say if you want to ask questions, if they're like in-depth technical questions, then it's probably best to wait until after the session, after the following session after lunch, when I've had a chance to explain how a lot of this works and what we're going to be doing with it in the future. But if you do have any questions about what I've shown, then feel free to ask them now. Oh my God, a few hands have gone up. All right, okay. Nick.
How soon can we start using this?
Well, like I said, it's in the actual infrastructure is in 4.2. You can, it's one of those things. It's I need to talk with. We need to make a decision about things like these tools, whether or not we actually put them into the community source, or if we release them as separate things that people can use. But theoretically, you could go and build all this stuff right now if you wanted to. Obviously, at the moment, like I said, all this tooling stuff was for the purposes of the presentation. So it's not product ready, but everything it builds on is already in 4.2. So it is there. You could start using it now. You just need to sort of dig into it. And I'm going to start writing more blog posts, as I typically do, explaining how all these things work going forwards. Okay. Question down. There's a couple down the front here.
It's about custom services and custom validation rules. With page creator, these services are shown in this page creator.
Yeah, well, these services here, the ones that, the ones that are showing, yeah. What about them? Sorry.
About custom services.
Okay, so yeah, so it's actually a key point. This is the very essence of what we're trying to do. By decoupling the data from the widgets, it means that a third party can come in and they can extend the base widget and they can just override one function of it. Or alternatively, like say they want to do some other way of creating content or creating dialogues, they just swap that service out. And they can either extend the one we provide or provide an entirely new one. But they could then reuse all of the widgets that we provide and have it all work. And the vice versa is true. If they want to use our back-end services for collecting data, because it's all written to work with Alfresco, but they want to use their own widgets, which again they can create from extending our ones we provide, they can do that as well. So what the whole essence of what we're trying to do here is we're trying to make it easier for us to build pages, and for the community to build pages, and for everyone to effectively work together on, improving the UI. So that is one of the core goals. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, there's one right by you if you want to save it.
So really impressive. What's the strategy regarding documentation? So how to get the partners and community up to speed with using these new capabilities? Okay, so it's a valid point. I think this is it's very early days. One of the key reasons for showing this kind of stuff is to give early notice to the community about where we're going to be taking this stuff, because we want to get feedback from the community. And as I said, it's not necessarily product ready. We are using this in a small section within Share at the moment, but it's something we're going to be building on going forwards. And as we build on it, we're going to be working to provide more documentation for you to sort of and it is still an ongoing process. And when we need to sort of iron out all the loose ends, and we need to make sure we understand how we want it to work before we start publishing out finished documentation. So as I was going to say in the next one, most of the widgets you see here, you should consider them really only sort of beta at the moment, so not necessarily ready for production use. But as I said, it's something. This is the way we're going to be working from now on, and obviously we'll start providing information
typically to start off with, it's probably going to be through the form of blogging initially, and then as it comes into product, there'll be official docs for it. Okay, next. Nope, no more questions. One at the front.
Yes, hi. Do you plan to move stuff like that to your cloud? So because it would be a great enabler for us to put content in the cloud, or to put the customization in the cloud.
That question is above my pay grade. I think one of the things, I mean, this is my personal opinion. It's not official Alfresco statement. I think, you know, one of the reasons why we wanted to do it like this from a development point of view is that the JSON is safe. So there is a, you know, I don't see any reason why we couldn't allow people to customize how they see their own particular tenant within the cloud service, and, you know, for enabling people to provide their own widgets and share stuff around the cloud. So I don't see any technical reason why we couldn't do that, but it's a, you know, it's a product management decision. So you'll need to collar the correct people and ask them what their thoughts are on that. Oh, another one at the front here.
Is it also supported to put these pages to the class path, or should they only be uploaded to the repository if we roll out something to the class?
So you can, if you're doing it via the sort of web script approach, defining the model within a web script, it's exactly off the share class path. So you could define them, for example, in a jar file, and you could just drop a jar file into share and have them loaded that way. I think the repository approach it's kind of cool for me to show it in a demo, but it's not necessarily. You know, I guess it depends on what you want to do with the service. It's there as an option. If I was going to show this, I could have done the same demo and writing web scripts, but then I'd have been like, you know, deploying and refreshing the web scripts and all that kind of stuff, and it was much more convenient to show it this way. But yeah, you have got the option of defining in a web script, so you're not really tied to using the repository.
Oh. Do you plan to move existing pages of share interface to this approach? Because then we get a great widget library.
Yeah, so we have got plans to start to moving things across to this approach. There's a number of reasons. I'm going to talk about a lot of the reasons why we're going to do this. There's all sorts of things such as accessibility and reuse and customization, all those sort of standard things that we need. The one thing that it's always worth remembering is just how big Share is. If you start, you know, if you think of Share as being more than just a document library, you start thinking about the rules management, default, you know, management pages and permissions and all those other kind of stuff. Share is enormous, really, and the Alfresco engineering team is quite small. The UI team is quite small as well. So, although we are going to start moving this over, start implementing new features in this way and maybe rolling over some of the existing features. It's not going to happen overnight. It's certainly not going to happen over the course of one release. But this is kind of the new direction we want to start taking. But we do want to start providing these widgets and making them available for use by the community. And also it would be cool as well to get contributions back. And this is a sort of cleaner way, if you like, of being able for the community to provide a widget back for use either in the product or shared around the community. So the short answer is yes, but it's going to take a long time. Question at one at the back here.
It's actually more of a comment more than a question, but release early, release often, give this tool to people to play with. If you want people to adopt this new way of creating pages, we need this tool. It's a great way to have a look into how the JSON should be generated. It's a really, really cool thing. I'm blown away by this. So release it as a module, and it doesn't matter. It's not production ready. We know that, but it's the best way to learn how this new stuff works. So release it.
Okay,
please.
Thank you. Yeah, all right, okay. Thank you, Rat. Okay, any more? Must all be hungry. All right, cool. Thank you very much, everyone, and hopefully you'll come to my session after lunch.